Welcome back to Modifix. My name's Dan and today we are fixing so the roller has a few issues. It's got a bad wheel bearing on the passenger side which needs changing, and also both of the track rod ends are shot, so I'm going to change all of that in this video and show you how it's done. Alright then, first things first, we've got to crack that nut off. That's the drive shaft nut there. So I'm going to do that with a wheel on so it doesn't spin when I try to do it later. So let's crack that off first. Alright, forgot to mention, to crack that off I've got a nice knuckle bar and a 30mm dual hex, or whatever you want to call it, a spline socket basically. Ideally you want a deep, this is a shallow, but it's all I could get hold of at short notice today. So yeah, just crack that off. So I'll just put that on here and then push down that way. You can step on it. There's supposed to be a little, see where that little dimple is on the drive shaft? The nut's supposed to be like sort of pressed down there, and that would be that bit of it there. I know it's a bit blurry, but if that is pressed down, straighten it out first and then crack the nut whilst the wheel's still on the car, otherwise you're going to have all sorts of pain. It's a good idea to crack off your lug nuts whilst you're here as well. I'm going to do that now. Alright guys, so the wheel's off. Quite interesting down here. I've got coilovers. I don't know the brand of these, so if anybody does know, do let me know. H&R springs, so maybe they're H&R coilovers, not sure. Anyway, this boot is supposed to be split and I can't see where the split is. That's shot, so that's going to be changed. To get the hub off, I'm going to have to take the disc off, which means caliper off, disc off, hub nut off. These two bolts here, 17s I think. No, 19s. So these are 19s, caliper off. I'll tell you all the bolt sizes after I've done it, but yeah, that off, that off, that off, bottom ball joint, track rod end, the whole lot basically. Alright guys, so I've stripped this down. Still can't see where the Gaiter's perished. It says the Gaiter's badly perished. I've got a new one. I might just stick it on there anyway, but anyway, the bearing's buggered on this. Cars and gear. So this whole hub's got to come off. What I'm going to do also is take the ABS sensor out, because instead of buying a bearing, I've just bought a whole hub. From my previous experience on that baby over there, one of the bearings was gone on the rear and it was a right pain in the arse. We had to change the ABS sensor, blah blah blah. It just ends up costing a lot more. This is a good second-hand unit supplied by these guys. Well, doesn't say who it is, but anyway, it's from a compressor. It seems good. There's no movement in it. The plate even seems in better nick than mine. Overall in good condition, and I'm just going to swap it straight over. It's even got the bottom ball joint on it, so all good to go. I'm just going to unbolt that, bolt that in, job done. Alright guys, so the 3 bottom ball joint bolts. There's 2 nuts and 1 bolt. 2 nuts at the front, 1 bolt at the back. They're all 19mm, and then track rod end, push the split pin through. That was rotten, so I'm going to have to change it. That's also 19mm, and these 2 are also 19mm, so quite a result there. So I'm just going to unbolt everything now, get it all off, swap it all over. I just wanted to say, with the track rod end, loosen that off and then just give it a bop with the nut on. That's gone, as you can see there. So that's it. If you take the nut off, you'll ruin the thread. Not that I'm bothered on this one, but yeah. Alright guys, quick update. Those are loose and about to come out. These are all out, so there's the nuts and bolts for that. That little bastard won't actually come off because I can't crack that nut off for some reason, but I'll revisit that later. Hub nut is off now. That's come all the way out. Everything's 19mm. This ABS wire, that actually unplugs up the top up here under this bit here, I believe. Under this bit here there's a plug, so you need to undo the 12mm here and then undo the 10mm here and then follow it up into that arch and undo the plug. And unfortunately the plug's actually on the ABS sensor side I mean the socket, so that actually sits in the wing. I've ripped mine out, I don't really care, I'll revisit that later. But yeah, progress so far. Now all I've got to do is undo those two and hopefully the hub should be free. Alright guys, the hub is off. That wasn't actually too bad. I accidentally pulled that inner CV joint out, but I pushed it back in, so I'm okay, so be careful of that. What else? I had to hang that caliper up so we don't ruin the brake hose. Might change those brake hoses in the long term, but okay. This Gaiter, I really couldn't see where it was perishing from, but now I can actually hear it, and it's got a really weird wear, but it's worn there. As you can you see that? I don't know if you can see it, but there's a wear line right there, and it's like seeping out grease everywhere. So I've had a little clean up. I'll change that over. I've got a brand new one of those, and then put the hub back in place, and then we'll have to revisit this and see if we can get it sorted. Anti-roll bars on these Toyotas always go flaky, weird. MRT is the same. Just to give you a comparison, old hub, new hub. Bearing doesn't actually seem that bad, to be honest, and that hub nut was actually suspiciously loose, so it might have just been loose, but we've got a new hub, we'll just stick it on now. Alright, things never go smoothly, so just to change that rubber there, this shaft just won't come off, so I'm going to have to take the inner shaft out, take the whole drive shaft out basically, and then try and get the new boot on. So let's try that. Alright, I had to get the inner shaft off, circlip off. The CV joint's actually still in the hole because I didn't want gear oil everywhere, and I pulled the middle race bit out with the stick, popped that off, took the circlip off. I'll show you that when I put it back on. And then I had to take the inner gaiter off first, then the outer gaiter all the way off, and now I'm going to put the new gaiter all the way back in and then put everything back together. Alright guys, so I've packed the outer gaiter with grease, or the outer joint even, and then I've put the rubber back on, and then I've got to put this thing back on. So as I was saying earlier, this thing here needs to be tapped back down. I'll use a socket to do that. Socket that will fit there, and then so I don't damage the bearings, and then circlip back on. The circlip's there, and then I should be hopefully able to pop that back into the inner joint, put the rubber on, cable ties, done. So I had to use a 23mm socket to get that on there, and now I'm going to put the circlip back, and then hopefully it will pop back into the inner joint. Credit where credit is due. As usual, I asked a very good friend of mine about how to do this, and he was the one who told me this trick, otherwise I'd be well stuck, or I'd be buying a new drive shaft, one of the two. Anyway, nearly done now. Alright guys, that's all back together. I've used metal clips because I can't actually find any cable ties that are long enough, and as you can see, plenty of movement there now. That Gaiter I was a bit worried about because it's a bit shorter than the original one. These clips, for anyone who's scared to put them on, get them as tight as possible first, and then get a side cutter like this, and then get that around this bit here and squeeze, but don't squeeze too hard that you cut through it. There is actually a special tool for that, but I didn't have it, so I just use the side cutters. So now let's put the drive shaft back in, and then I've got to find a zip tie that will fit there. Actually, I might try and find that now. Alright, I've managed to get that back in the hole now. Gaiter on, cable ties on, and then we should be alright. I've got to pack it with grease first, so I'll do that first, and then cable tie it, and then that's the drive shaft done. Finally, it's bloody getting dark now. Alright guys, it's bloody dark now, so I'm gonna have to try and finish this job if I can. I might not be able to do the track rod in, but apart from that, everything else should get finished. The inner gaiter's back on. I had to daisy chain 2 cable ties together because I didn't actually have one that was long enough, but I think it's gonna hold and it's okay. And then I had a nice fat one for here, so that one will be okay. I tried to clean everything the best I could, it's all covered in grease. And now we're ready to put the hub back on. Yay! Right guys, quick update time. The new hub axle is on, or hub, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to have to straighten that dust shield out a little bit. ABS sensor needs to be plugged back in, but what I've done is I've put the bottom ball joint in, located it in the holes, and then I slid the drive shaft in, and then I'm going to tighten, well, I've loosely put on the bolt and nuts for the bottom ball joint, and I'm going to tighten them up in a bit, but not yet. I've loosely put on the drive shaft nut as well, and then I'm going to try and locate that now, and then the ABS sensor, and then brakes back on, everything back on, and we should be good. Alright guys, the bottom ball joint's on and fully tightened up. The legs back on now as well, fully tightened up. I'm not sure about this anti-roll bar link. There seems a lot of space there, and with that on, it was very difficult to rotate the actual leg to line that up. So I don't know if that's right. I think that should be a little bit shorter perhaps, or maybe it should have that much tension on it. I don't know. If you do know, let me know. I'll put a post up on the Corolla Club today to find out. Anyway, I had to take that off to get that to fit in back again. It was a pain in the arse, to be honest, but yeah, once you take that out, it's quite easy. Now I'm going to try and persevere and take that off and put a new one on, track rod end, and then wrap up. Alright guys, so the track rod end, I couldn't get it off, and it's late now. My back's killing me, so I'm going to try and resume tomorrow and see if I can get that bugger off, and then change it over. But everything's pretty much back to normal now. I just got to put the ARB link back in the hole. That seems wrong to me for some reason. I think it needs to be shorter, but we'll see about that. I don't think there should be that much tension on it. And then put that back in, change that over, tighten that nut once the car's on the floor, and everything else is ready to rock and roll. So quite happy with that. I might just stick some degreaser on that disc, because grease was bloody going everywhere when I was dealing with that. So that's all nice and sorted now. Glad about that. Alright, cool. See you in the morning. Okay guys, it's another day and it's nice and dry, which is nice. So today I think the plan is to get some heat on that bugger over there, really get it hot, and then try and crack it open, swap that over, and then clean up generally all of this and put it all back together. Oh, in terms of the ARB link, I spoke to a few people about it, and as I've got lowered suspension, I think I do need adjustable ARB links, so I am going to look into that. But that one there will go back in the hole for now. So what I'll do is I'll jack this up from the lower ball joint and get it to line up, and then just push it through. So that should be that. And there's the nut for it. I left it out. Oops. Oh, I just wanted to point out that these are 19s. That's a 19. But the ball joint, don't know if you can see. Yeah, those three there, 2 nuts and 1 bolt. They're 17. I think I might have said they were all 19s, but they're not. And we have success. So that plus that on that equals that off that. Yes. So now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of copperies on the mating surfaces of the track rod end and the nut, and then I've left the nut where it was. I'll wind the track rod all the way up to it and then lock them together and back on the car. For anyone who's interested, I'm fitting some blueprint replacements, and they come with a new nut and a split pin and everything else, and that's the part number. I got these off Paul Predum, the owner of TCB. It predominantly does Toyota parts. Very good service, I'd highly recommend. Alright guys, that's all done now. I put a bit of anti-seize on in between the nut and the actual track rod end. New nut on there, fully tightened, split pin through, so that's done. It's a bit dark now, it's getting dark already. And that's the track rod end done. Now I've just got to jack this up to get that on, and that's it. This side's done. Obviously I have to give it a clean down, and I have to tighten that nut as well once it's on the ground. The crows are going nuts over there. Alright guys, so that's back in. I had to jack that quite a lot to actually get that in. I know the car's been jacked up quite high, but anyway, that's in. I had to use an Allen key in the middle, number 5 it is, if anybody wants to know, and that's a 17mm nut. So I used an Allen key bit on a socket and ratchet, which is there, and a 17mm spanner, and just crank that up nice. So that's everything done now. All I've got to do is tighten that nut once it's on the floor. Alright guys, and that's all nice and clean now. I even lubed up the threads on the old coilover so they don't seize. I use this anti-seize stuff that you normally use on brakes. So yeah, that's done, and I sprayed some WD silicone stuff in there. It's more of a longer term stuff, that is. So that's high performance silicone lubricant. And just like that guys, it's all done. That was actually solid tight. I've got this Chinese cordless gun, 36 volts apparently, and I absolutely tightened the crap out of that nut, and it seems to have done the job, because I tried to tighten it with that after and there was no movement, so that's all good. And I've knocked a little notch in the top of it now, so that's all done. Just going to do the track rod end on the other side now. Okay, so this one was pretty much seized solid as well, so I've applied some heat on that. As you can see, it's still smoking, and I've managed to get the locking nut to turn. So whenever you do track rod ends, it's advisable to have your tracking done afterwards, so make sure your geometry is correct. But to get a rough guesstimate, count the number of turns coming off. I've already counted 3 or 4. 3. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, just to give you an idea of a ruined track rod end, look how loose that is. I can move it with my thumb very, very easily. Too much playing that, knackered. And just to compare, I can't actually move that with my thumb. Not easily anyway. There you go. So that nut there was really, really hard on the threads. So what I did was I soaked it in WD-40, and then I used the impact gun. It's only a little baby one with a 19mm socket on there, and I just kept pushing it back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, until it went really easy and cleaned all the threads. And now it's beautiful, so we shouldn't have any trouble putting that back on now, and for future adjustment as well. Okay guys, and with that, everything's done now. So the intention of this video was to change the bearing, which came with the hub anyway, the CV Gaiter, which was a right pain in the bum, but it's done now, so that's good. And both track rod ends, so they're done now as well. And the car, I've just taken it out for a spin, and it drives a lot tighter and nicer now, so I'm glad all that's out of the way. They were the dirty jobs, so they're done. The adjustable anti-roll bar links look really good. Thanks CC UK, that's Corolla Club UK, great club. They recommended those, and they make a lot of sense because the car is lowered quite a lot. So we'll invest in a set of those and get them on the car at a later date. And now I'm going to move on to some more nicer mods. If you enjoyed that video guys, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. More Corolla content to come, and the next mods are pretty sweet. I think you'll enjoy them. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, a like, and I will see you later. Bye for now.